Will the New York Jets ever be good again? Philosophers have never asked this question because I just did. But it's been a bit since the Jets obtained a favorable or desirable outcome, synonyms for success. Most videos you'll see on them talk about how they're a joke, always were, and will continue to be one. And they'll be sure to bring up a play where a collision into someone's ass is at such great force, it'll cause the football to jar loose. But talking about how much the Jets suck is boring. Instead, let's talk about the last time they were a good football team. I promise, it happened. It's a 14-year period that doesn't just represent the last time this team was a contender, but the best stretch in franchise history. The story starts in 1997, but first some history. After winning Super Bowl III as an AFL team, the Jets switched leagues in 1970 as part of its merger with the NFL. While they had considerable success in the early to mid-80s, for the most part, they'll spend the next 27 years being about as useful as the human appendix. Their win percentage is the second lowest of any team outside the inaugural Baltimore Ravens, and they've had just 5 playoff appearances to show since 1970. They're especially terrible in 95 and 96, winning a combined 4 games under coach Rich Kotite. Kotite leads a group of players that show up to practices smelling like alcohol, and he often leaves the facility early, sometimes sneaking in the second car to make it less obvious. Not the most qualified man for the job, but he's endured the wrath of Jets fans who blast him with beer after one loss and publicly scorn him on radio. To his credit, Kotite took it all in stride. But after announcing his resignation just before the end of 1996, it's a reminder that being the head coach of this team is slightly less painful than standing in line at the DMV. Enter new head coach, Hall of Famer Bill Parcells. In order to actually get him, though, there's some hurdles. As the then head coach of the rival New England Patriots, Parcells actively feuded with owner Robert Kraft over a power struggle while the team made a successful run to the Super Bowl. Here's the list of steps the Jets used to acquire him. Step 1. Make a convoluted plan to hire his assistant coach, Bill Belichick. Step 2. Make Belichick head coach so they could then hire Parcells and make him a consultant before installing him later as head coach and president of football operations. Step 3. Witness the Patriots threaten to file a lawsuit for how ridiculous this is. Step 4. After the NFL said no, please don't, allow them to broker a deal to release Parcells from his Patriots contract in exchange for some picks. With that, Parcells earned the privilege of coaching the Jets while in complete control over its football operations. I love how stupid that was. Now it's time for football. Parcells had a Midas touch, turning previous dismal franchises in the Giants and Patriots around into perennial contenders. When hired by the Jets, he made it clear being close to winning was not going to be good enough. Sounds like me playing Velatro. They responded soundly, creaming the Seahawks 41-3 in the season opener in their largest win by point differential in 9 seasons. Suddenly, the same 1-15 team a year ago was 9-6, only needing a win to secure an unlikely playoff spot. Against the Lions team that also needed a win to get in, Parcells played hot potato with starter Neil O'Donnell, benching him right after an 18-yard scramble for a quarterback with 0 career pass attempts, and one that would end that promising drive with a pick. O'Donnell was brought back in, and in the fourth quarter, right after Neal's 33-yard pass completion to the Detroit 9, Parcells had backup running back Leon Johnson throw an interception that, to be fair, should have been overturned because Bryant Westbrook clearly bobbled it as he went out of bounds. However, the ref was a distant 5 inches away from the action, and instant replay wasn't a thing at the time, so no dice. And people say today's officiating is bad. Even with the close loss and the annoyance Jets fans / media had with Parcells' questionable game management, the team went 9-7 a year after being bad enough to secure the first overall pick. Good thing, too, they missed out on taking Tennessee quarterback Peyton Manning first overall in the 97 NFL draft, but instead he declared for 1998. It's said Parcells wouldn't guarantee they'd take him first overall, though both parties have later insisted they would have been on board with Peyton as a Jet. Fact or fiction, the future Hall of Famer was not taking his talents to New York / New Jersey, so it's time to go to 1998. A great leap forward was anticipated, and after an 0-2 start, it was delivered when the Jets won 12 of their last 14 to finish 12-4, earning their first division title as an NFL member and their first ever playoff bye. This team is beyond stacked, with two offseason pieces really taking them over the top. First is quarterback Vinny Testaverde, Brooklyn-born and a Jets fan growing up, but someone whose NFL career saw him average just under 20 interceptions with the then lowly Tampa Bay Buccaneers, including a combined 57 in years 2 and 3. But his numbers became more respectable since his Tampa departure, and in his first start with the Jets, he was amazing, getting the '98 club's first win when they beat who else but a Colts team quarterbacked by Peyton Manning, the same quarterback that threw 35 interceptions in his second season and will have 4 seasons leading the league in that category, threw just 7 in 1998. Testaverde broke his childhood team's single-season touchdown passing record, throwing 29. Earning a Pro Bowl nod while finishing second in adjusted net yards per attempt and passer rating. By the way, 98 must have been a banner year for old quarterbacks because the top 5 in passer rating were all aged 33 and above. So Vinny was the first huge piece added. The second is another free agent signing familiar with Parcells from their days in New England. A man in contention for the greatest player in Jets history. Hall of Fame running back, Curtis Martin. Martin's story is one of the sport's most inspiring. Having grown up in poverty in a broken home, Martin picked up football following the encouragement of his mother and his pastor. This despite not even being a fan of football. Not a fan of running either. He prefers to box when it comes to exercise. But when he arrives in New York, he'll punch defenses in an excellent 8-year stretch. Although Martin had a reputation as an injury-prone player in college and dealt with injuries with the Patriots, he missed just 5 games in 8 seasons with the Jets. 4 of those were in his last season in the league. Martin, too, makes the Pro Bowl, nearly squeezing 1,300 yards on the ground. He and Vinny form a stacked offense with arguably the league's top wide receiver duo. Former first overall pick Keyshawn Johnson will be here for a short time in a stint more notorious in the media for his mouth than his actual play. In fact, his autobiography was published just after his rookie season. That's how confident he was. But his actual play is awesome. He racks up 10 touchdowns and over 1,100 yards, and he's joined by fellow 1,000-yard receiver and Garfield, New Jersey native Wayne Chrebet. Undrafted out of Hofstra in 1995, Chrebet was 5'10 and about 185 pounds, passed over by teams in the NFL draft for his size. But when the Jets gave him a chance that season, he immediately became their best receiver and spent all of his great 11-year career there, later landing himself in the team's Ring of Honor. This top 5 offense is complemented by a top 5 defense, led by faces such as All-Pro linebacker Mo Lewis and future Jets head coach Aaron Glenn, a ball hawk at corner who will put up his first of 4 seasons with at least 5 picks. As an actual member of the NFL, the Jets' Super Bowl odds have never been higher. Against the Jaguars in the divisional round, the 2-seed Jets managed to not completely blow a 31-14 fourth-quarter lead thanks to 4 takeaways. The 34-24 win earning them their first AFC Championship game appearance since 1982. The Jets' defense completely shut out the 14-2 reigning champion Broncos in the first half, and a touchdown early in the third quarter put them up 10-0. 2 years removed from a 1-15 campaign, the New York Jets were 1 half away from making it back to the Super Bowl. 2 minutes of game time later, the Broncos tied it up at 10, then scored 13 more points that also went unanswered. The 23-10 season-ending loss was agonizing, but the 98 Broncos were as loaded with talent as any in league history. It happens. Another but. After the then 2-time reigning champions saw Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway retire just later, the window to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl was again open for the Jets in their quest to build on the amazing season they just had. They just needed to make sure Vinny Testaverde's Achilles didn't blow up on a non-contact injury after a handoff during the 1999 season opener in an injury that immediately ended his season. Dang! And a year away from natural grass replacing the concrete-installed AstroTurf Giants Stadium then had. Hopefully this will be the worst thing to happen to the Jets involving the Patriots. In this same game, punter and part-time QB Tom Tupa replaced Vinny and threw 2 touchdowns, as punters often do. Because of emergency quarterback rules at the time, the actual backup, Rick Mirer, wasn't brought in until the fourth quarter, and Mirer's passer rating in this close Jets loss is dangerously close to resembling Skip Bayless's points per game average in high school basketball. That loss led to 5 more losses in 6 games before the coaching wizardry of Bill Parcells cast a potion that allowed the 1999 Jets to finish the season 8-8. Parcells takes the grace he earned from his first 3 seasons here and resigns as Jets head coach to take a front office spot there as the team's de facto general manager. In his place is Bill Belichick, who he had picked before season's end to replace him. At last, Belichick would get another crack at it, with the team set up nicely for the future. Wait, we were still talking about the Jets? I was referring to the Patriots. After previous Jets owner Leon Hess passed away in '99, his will barred any of his children from inheriting the Jets franchise, meaning the team was up for sale. The prize of ownership was claimed by businessman Woody Johnson. Please don't laugh, that's his real name. Belichick, concerned about how his job security would fare under a new owner and without the full control of football operations he desired, announced his resignation from the organization at his introductory press conference, technically ending 2 stints as Jets head coach without having even coached a game. Parcells disapproved of Belichick failing to honor his contract, which seems hypocritical on Parcells' end, considering he left the Patriots team the day after they played in the Super Bowl. But Belichick did it anyway. And like the previous Jets-Patriots coaching power of transfer fiasco, a first-round pick was sent to the Jets so Belichick could officially join the Patriots with the power he desired. The Jets' head coaching vacancy was actually filled by longtime Parcells Belichick assistant Al Groh, whose biggest move was trading Keyshawn Johnson to the Buccaneers in exchange for 2 first-rounders. So, in addition to the first-round pick they already had, the 2000 Jets now had an NFL record 4 first-round picks, and what a class they had. At 12, they took defensive end Sean Ellis, who will have a terrific 11-year career here. With the very next pick at 13, they got an even better pass rusher with John Abraham, whose numbers give him a legitimate case to make the Hall of Fame. And then at 18, they acquired their quarterback of the future in Marshall's Chad Pennington. He never really plays until his 3rd season, so we'll save him for later, but he will be important. Even the worst first-round pick, tight end Anthony Beck, was still a damn good blocker. Oh, and if the Jets didn't already have excellent draft value, they acquired receiver Lavernius Coles in the 3rd round, yet another solid player from this team's class. A lot to look forward to if you're a fan, and there's a lot to love when the 2000 season kicks off. The Jets had 3 800-yard receivers this season, one of which is longtime Jet Richie Anderson, a fullback. Curtis Martin, a 1,400-yard All-Pro in 1999, provided his 3rd straight 1,200-yard season in 2000. Vinny Testaverde returned from his Achilles injury and wasn't the best early on, but he had led the Jets to a 6-1 start, which included one of the craziest quarterback stat lines in NFL history: 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Facing Miami in Week 8, the Jets trailed 30-7 entering the 4th quarter before going on a 30-7 run thanks to 4 Testaverde touchdowns in the 4th to force overtime, where they eventually won 40-37 in what came to be known as the Monday Night Miracle. Then, the Jets lost their next 3 games, won the next 3 after that, then at 9-4, lost all of their last 3 games to finish 9-7 and out of the playoffs. That's unfortunate. Why would they do that? Turnovers played a role. Testaverde led the league in picks with 25, throwing at least 1 in each of the Jets' last 10 games. 3 picks came against Baltimore in the regular season finale, a game where the Jets, needing a win to clinch a playoff spot, blew an early 14-0 lead to get outscored 34-6 for the rest of the game. Earlier, after beating the Colts in Week 14 when Martin became the first Jets player to reach 200 yards, they got blown out by Oakland, and gave the Lions their first December win since 1997, also against the Jets. Long offseason for Testaverde. Good thing, because in the Ravens game he threw 69 passes, nice, the 2nd most in the game ever. So he can just ice his shoulder, take a nice ice bath, and rest and relax until the next time he has to practice. Pretty good deal. As for Al Groh, he resigns over the uncertainty of Bill Parcells' role as an executive. Parcells resigned soon after, citing the stress the executive role gave him. He just wasn't cut out for it. Parcells has a bit of a reputation in league circles as a quitter, here for a good time, not a long time. But his coaching excellence and his excellent 2000 draft class give the Jets an incredibly hopeful future for the years to come. In 2001, the head coach is Bucks assistant Herman Edwards, known as the mastermind of the Miracle at the Meadowlands and as the 6th black coach in NFL history. Edwards is a bit of a fiery guy like Parcells, so he should have no trouble leading a locker room. It's a locker room united early on, especially during week 2 after the season was delayed a week due to the September 11th attacks. With the terror unleashed on the nation and the paranoia to follow, the next time the team stepped on the football field, it would be a time where every football fan imaginable was rooting for them to win. It wasn't pretty, but the Jets did. After forcing 4 takeaways in a 10-3 defensive slog against the Patriots, their quarterback Drew Bledsoe was knocked out of the game in the 4th quarter by Mo Lewis on a life-threatening sideline hit that caused internal bleeding. Actually, Bledsoe stayed in for another drive before being replaced by 6th-round backup Tom Brady. Brady led the Pats to the Jets' 29, but time ran out before they could score, and New England fell to 0-2, proving once and for all you can't be a playoff contender without an experienced quarterback. Testaverde, while not all that great, was mistake-free. He was the driving force behind the Jets being willing to boycott their initial Week 2 game in Oakland. Affected by the loss of a high school teammate who was a rescue worker at the scene, he told Herman Edwards and GM Terry Bradway his plans. They agreed with him, and eventually the whole team and the entire league did as well. Wayne Corbett, who previously dealt with Pats fans tossing him height-related insults, said they wished him well and had casual convos before the game. It was surreal. The writers understood it too. Yes, this Pats team looked like they weren't going to win 3 games all year, but as Testaverde puts it, it was a successful chance to put the mind of Jets Nation at ease, if only for a little while. In terms of metrics, this Jets team behaved more like an 8-8 club than a 10-6 one, but they got to 10-6 with the 2nd fewest turnovers and the 2nd most takeaways. All-pro seasons came for Curtis Martin as well as John Abraham, who broke out with 13.5 sacks and a league-best 6 forced fumbles. Testaverde couldn't recapture his 98 campaign, but he did cut into his turnover problems from 2000. He tossed 2 in Week 17 in Oakland, but John Hall's game-winning 53-yard field goal on a bad snap punched the Jets into the playoffs anyway, securing a matchup against the Oakland Raiders again. The Jets made a valiant effort to come back from a 16-3 hole, but trailing 31-24 with a $1:40 to go, they had to defend the pass on a crucial 3rd and 11. Issue: not only was John Abraham inactive due to the flu, the Raiders had called 98 Brunch Crunch, the perfect play call for the all-out blitz the Jets had called, and back Charlie Garner took the handoff 80 yards for the game-sealing touchdown. Tough break. Let's make it tougher. Remember how Tom Brady replaced Drew Bledsoe after the Mo Lewis hit in Week 2? Well, after that 0-2 skid, Brady led the Patriots to an 11-5 finish on their way to one of the most unexpected Super Bowl winning runs of all time. Rational thinking says it's unfair to completely blame Mo Lewis's hit for this happening, especially considering he was a really good player. However, those who believe in the domino effect see this as the start of a Hall of Fame career where Brady's resume includes 7 Super Bowl wins, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 15 Pro Bowls, 6 All-Pro selections, 3 regular season MVPs, and 2 Offensive Player of the Year awards. No time to worry about that though. The Jets have to build on yet another open window created by good team transactions. The best way to do that is not start the 2002 season 2-5, which is exactly what happens. 2 Chad Morton kickoff return touchdowns helped the Jets win what was then the fastest overtime period ever in Week 1, but they were then outscored 102-13 in Weeks 2-4. Then they lost 2 of their next 3, blowing a late lead against the Chiefs and a 21-3 advantage to the Browns. Unless Herman Edwards decides to give one of the most iconic post-game rants right after the Browns lost to defend his team's efforts after they were questioned, their season is over.
This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
Their season is not over.
The Jets' next game was against a red-hot 6-1, heavily favored Chargers team. So naturally, the Jets won in a 44-13 beatdown that was a turning point for the soon-to-be 8-8 2002 Chargers and the playoff-bound Jets. The Jets ran the table by winning 7 of their last 9 games, finishing 9-7 and stealing the AFC East crown from the defending champion Pats and a Dolphins team that, with 2 games left, was contending for the AFC top seed. A 30-17 win over the Patriots in Week 16 and a 42-17 ass-whooping of a Packers team that would have clinched the NFC top seed and some kind of bye with a win brought the Jets back-to-back playoff appearances for the first time since 1985 and 1986. The secret sauce was the arrival of Chad Pennington, who started the last 12 games of the season and was playing at an all-pro level. After the Browns loss, Pennington threw 17 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions and had a 7-0 touchdown-interception ratio in the final 2 games of the season. His arm was never special, but he made up for it by being one of the most accurate quarterbacks the game has ever seen. In 2002, Pennington led the league in completion percentage, touchdown percentage, and passer rating. Had he played for longer, he likely would have gotten more MVP consideration. But as is, he is responsible for the Jets, well, turning on the Jets. The team's reward was playing as wildcard host to the Peyton Manning Colts. When I say the Jets allowed 41 points without scoring any in this game, what I mean is the Jets allowed themselves to score 41 points without letting the Colts score any in this game. It's one of just 5 playoff shutouts in the 21st century, the only playoff shutout in Jets history, and the only shutout of a Peyton Manning team in any game. Colts players before the game admitted, yeah, we love the Jets crowd noise, bring it on. Well, they brought it on, to the point where Manning, even after the game, struggled to find an answer as to what happened. The Jets defense only allowed the Colts to get into the red zone on just 2 plays, also holding Hall of Fame back Edgerrin James to 14 yards on 9 carries. On offense, Lamont Jordan had a stellar day on the ground, and Chad Pennington threw for a franchise playoff record passer rating of 142. Edwards noted Pennington's poise came from the belief that after the bye, every game the Jets played turned into a playoff game. Speaking of poise, everyone compared the kind he had to Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Montana, making the comparison on and on and on and on and on and on and on to the point that when the Raiders forced 4 Pennington turnovers in a divisional round beating of the Jets, the Raiders players expressed relief they wouldn't have to hear that again. But what a breakout campaign from Pennington, and his arrival as a star quarterback makes the Jets a fun Super Bowl pick for 2003. They just need to make sure that Chad Pennington doesn't suffer a broken wrist injury with additional broken knuckle bones that would require 7 pins to be inserted into his wrist and create a timetable that was expected to sideline him for most of, if not all of, the 2003 regular season. Edwards was optimistic that Chad would return this season by Week 12, assuring he wouldn't try to rush him. He returned Week 8, jotting down some great games but never looking consistent to the surprise of no one. The 0-4 start led way to a 6-10 finish. Lavernius Coles, a 1,200-yard receiver in 2002 and a close friend of Pennington, signed with the Redskins in the offseason as a restricted free agent. Santana Moss would have a great breakout campaign, but the Jets didn't use a single one of their 7 2003 draft picks to get some help for Moss, passing over guys like Hall of Famer Andre Johnson, future Hall of Fame tight end Jason Witten, and Anquan Bolden, who has his own Hall of Fame case. Defensive tackle Dwayne Robertson was chosen over 5-time first-team All-Pro defensive tackle Kevin Williams, as well as Pro Bowl offensive tackle Jordan Gross. Also gross, they traded out of the 13th overall pick, which they could have used to take Hall of Fame safety Troy Polamalu. Speaking of things that hurt, injuries kept Wayne Corbett out for 9 games. Same for John Abraham, on pace for another All-Pro season. But not all was bad in 2003. For one, Sean Ellis broke out with 12.5 sacks and a Pro Bowl. Though Curtis Martin had just 2 touchdowns, he ran for over 1,300 yards as well. The Jets were also responsible for the most recent losing season in Pittsburgh Steelers history when a Week 15 shutout dropped the Steelers to 5-9. In the midst of all the chaos and confusion, there were faint reminders that they could do something special, made more apparent in a rebound year in 2004. Okay, their 10-6 finish did mostly come from starts to 5-0 and 9-3, but it is enough to mark another playoff appearance. No Jets coach had ever led 3 playoff teams, none except for Herman Edwards, getting that done in his 4th season. The defense, aided by Defensive Rookie of the Year linebacker Jonathan Vilma, ranked 4th in scoring and 7th in yards, while the offense got a boost from an improved season from Pennington, as well as Curtis Martin writing down the greatest running back season the franchise has ever seen. Martin led the league in carries and yards, and went from 2 touchdowns in 2003 to 12 in 2004, remarkably while only fumbling the ball twice. The record is good enough to land a plane trip to San Diego to play the Chargers. A collapse was inevitable after the team blew a 4th and goal line stand with under a minute left when linebacker Eric Barton inexplicably tried out for a UFC career on quarterback Drew Brees. The roughing penalty soon resulted in a game-tying touchdown that sent this 17-17 affair into overtime. The Chargers drove to the Jets' 22 on their second overtime drive, setting up a game-winning field goal that would mark the end of a fall from grace for the 2004 Jets. Instead, Nate Kading's kick shanked wide right, and the Jets capitalized on a 4-minute drive that ended on a walk-off Doug Bryan 28-yarder with 8 seconds left in OT. No bullets were sweated here. But in the divisional round, the Jets made the 15-1 Steelers sweat them when they threatened to take the lead in another 17-17 game with 2 minutes left. Doug Bryan's 47-yarder doinked off the goalpost to keep the score even, or odd technically. But the Jets got a pick on the very next play. Rather than push the ball further, though, the Jets settled for a 40-yard kick. As regulation expired, not only was Bryan's kick no good, it missed the net that's supposed to hold the football from reaching the stands. A complete reversal of their wildcard win. The Jets lost in a 20-17 overtime defeat caused by special teams woes. Steelers Hall of Fame coach Bill Cowher told Edwards the Steelers got lucky that night, a classier response than the one Bryan will receive. Bryan's personal website, designed to give advice to aspiring kickers, was spammed by Steelers fans who sent personal insults to him. Gotta be stressful to deal with that. But the consensus was Edwards should have pushed for the Jets to make it an easier kick instead of running out the clock. At least the team could rest knowing the Steelers would eventually lose in the AFC title game. They lost to a Patriots team that won their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 seasons. Consequentially, the Jets overcompensated for special teams mishaps by taking kicker Mike Nugent in the 2nd round. They also took electrifying return specialist Justin Miller in the same round, note he was taken to be a corner. Considering they could have used the Nugent pick on any other position, they passed over guys like All-Pro safety Nick Collins, Pro Bowl wide receiver Vincent Jackson, All-Pro defensive end Justin Tuck, and future Hall of Fame running back Frank Gore. Gore would have been a perfect replacement for the recently departed Lamont Jordan and a 32-year-old Curtis Martin that would play his last string of football in 2005. Thank goodness they took All-Pro safety Kerry Rhodes, otherwise this class would be a complete mess. What is a complete mess is Chad Pennington's injury timetable this year. Having had surgery on his rotator cuff in February, he was struggling to throw 40-yard passes in July, and re-injured the same shoulder in the 3rd game of the season. After surgery on the same shoulder for the 2nd time in 8 months, Pennington's season was over. One the Jets finished 4-12 in. It's a shame because again there were things to be excited about. Hall of Fame corner Ty Law was signed for his first of 2 stints with the team, becoming the first Jet to pick off 10 passes post-merger. Laveranues Coles was also back, though getting him required a catch. The Jets traded Santana Moss to the Skins to reacquire Coles. Now, it's true Moss was not happy with his role in New York, and at the time the deal that signed Coles away was considered a lot for a wide receiver. But in an ideal scenario, they could have had Moss and Coles on the same team with a healthy Pennington for more than a couple years. As for Curtis Martin, injuries resulted in his sole season under 1,000 yards, forcing him to retire a bit after. He's the only Jets back to reach 10,000 rushing yards with the team, also leading in attempts and touchdowns. And as of this recording, he's still 6th all-time in rushing, and the latest Jet to have his jersey number retired. The Jets moved on from Herman Edwards after the season in a rare trade of a head coach, sending him to the Chiefs. In his place is Pat's defensive coordinator and longtime Belichick assistant Eric Mangini, the youngest head coach at 35. Mangini made a good first impression in the 2006 NFL Draft, beefing up the offensive line by taking stud tackle DeBrickashaw Ferguson 4th overall, and with the 29th overall pick they acquired in a trade with the Falcons for John Abraham, took legendary All-Pro center Nick Mangold, a national champion with Ohio State. Go Buckeyes. The 4th round pick they got in the Herman Edwards trade was also used to land incredible return specialist Leon Washington as well, so impressive value for your first year. Chad Pennington wasn't great, but in his return from injury, won his first of 2 Comeback Player of the Year awards, getting a ton of mileage out of 900-yard receiver Jericho Cotchery and another 1,000-yard season from Lavernius Coles. A middle-of-the-pack schedule allowed the Jets to win 8 of their last 11 games to finish 10-6, landing a wild-card date with the Patriots in Foxborough. The game was tight in the first half, but the Patriots massacred the Jets in the second half, thanks in part to far superior third down conversion splits. A nice Jets season was over, 37-16. The 2007 season saw regression, and the Jets finished 4-12 that year. Love this win-loss pattern, by the way. At least the Pats lost the Super Bowl this time. It was against the other football team with New York in its name. After more bad injury luck, Pennington's Jets tenure was at odds with the new regime, who moved on from him just before the 2008 season. Pennington's career is the ultimate what-if. He looked like an MVP in 2002 before his body just repeatedly broke down. As a reminder of the potential he could have had, no quarterback at the time of his retirement had a higher career completion percentage than he did. So he's most likely the closest thing the Jets have had to a franchise quarterback since the great Joe Namath. Despite the 4-12 record, though, the Jets are sitting on a goldmine of hope. Jericho Cotchery had a career season in 2007 and will continue to be a key piece for a few years. New arrival Thomas Jones had his first of 3 phenomenal seasons as the Jets' primary back, and David Harris will spend 10 seasons here as a beloved linebacker. But by far the most impactful piece they got in 2007 was with the 14th overall pick, when they took game-changing Hall of Fame cornerback Darrelle Revis. In the win-now push for 2008, the Jets traded for quarterback Brett Favre, a Hall of Famer who loves retiring from football as much as he loves unretiring from it. His arrival pays dividends when the team races out to an 8-3 start. This involves a monster 56-35 win over the eventual NFC champion Cardinals in a 6-touchdown performance from Favre, a 47-3 win over a 2-win Rams team who are certainly not as good as a Tom Brady-less Pats team they beat in overtime in Week 11, and the same is true when they beat the top-seeded Titans in a blowout in Nashville. At 8-3, the Jets have a hold on first place in the AFC East. That grip is as firm as George W. Bush's handshake in that one King of the Hill episode. The Jets lost 3 of their next 4 games, all losses by 2 scores, only winning against a Bills team that also collapsed after a hot start. Now, a Week 17 win wouldn't be enough. They needed a Patriots or Ravens loss to clinch some kind of playoff spot. Neither scenario happened, and in a cruel twist of irony, they lost a playoff spot to the division-winning Dolphins, led by none other than MVP runner-up Chad Pennington. Favre's 3 picks against Miami were costly, and Thomas Jones, making a radio appearance a couple days later, implied Favre should have been benched for that performance. He has a point. After suffering what will later turn out to be a torn bicep, Favre threw just 2 touchdowns to 9 interceptions in his last 9 games. His Jets stint will also be tarnished by a scandal where he was alleged to have sent inappropriate pics to a Jets game day host. That same woman will later claim he stalked and harassed her. If that's true, I hope she's found inner peace since then. Favre may have been one and done with the Jets, but Eric Mangini was still fired after the Dolphins' loss. So yeah, his tenure was short, but his talent evaluation helped land the franchise a boatload of quality players that will rocket the Jets to unprecedented heights. We'll ignore the 6th overall pick in 2008 spent on Vernon Gholston, who will compile 0 career sacks but is also from Ohio State, OHIO. Mangini's regime helped land tight end Dustin Keller, who will have an excellent 5-year Jets career, signed Hall of Fame guard Alan Fenica, traded for All-Pro defensive tackle Chris Jenkins, who had another one of those in 2008, and hired O-line coach Bill Callahan, one of the greatest to ever fill that position. With the talent overload, expectations were afoot, which is why the Jets' next head coach is Rex Ryan. the son of famed coordinator and coach Buddy Ryan, and brother of Rob. Rex is pumped to coach the Jets because Buddy was an assistant on the Super Bowl winning 1968 program. As another emotional fiery guy and a string of them for the Jets, Rex's goal is to increase team bonding. His plan to do that? Team activities like a fishing trip, Jeopardy contest, golf tournament, paintball tournament, and a contest to see who the ugliest player on the team is. Rex wanted the beef to be ugly with Bill Belichick. He refused to kiss Bill's 3 Super Bowl rings with New England. Great first impression for a leader of men. The Jets QB in 2009 is USC rookie Mark Sanchez, and to spoil things, he will not be the team's so-called Sanchez. But on a roster this loaded, he doesn't need to be, so the 2009 season kicks off, and it's ripe with chaos. The Jets won their first 3 games, including one over the Patriots, followed by losing their next 3, the last of which was a 5-interception performance from Sanchez with a dreadful 8.3 passer rating. So how does the team recover from this? By winning their next game 38-0, that's how. After falling to 4-6, the Jets won 5 of their last 6 games to finish 9-7 again. This effort, however, was good enough to secure a wildcard spot. After a Week 15 loss to the Falcons, Rex Ryan made the mistake of saying his team's playoff hopes were done for, before later walking that statement back. Their last 2 games were against the undefeated Colts and the playoff-bound Bengals, but both teams rested their starters, and the Jets took advantage. The latter win being notable because the Jets defense allowed 0 net passing yards in the final game at Giants Stadium. 2 factors made this 9-7 ball club scarier than their record indicated. First, the offensive line was stacked with talent. 3 players up front made Pro Bowls, and all 5 starters were damn good. Why else would Thomas Jones explode for over 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns in the backfield? The second factor in the Jets' playoff push was a defense that gave up the fewest yards, points per drive, and yards per drive. The over-the-top culprit was the league takeover of Darrelle Revis, who picked off 6 passes, disrupted a still NFL record 31 passes, and put every star receiver he faced on an island, hence his nickname, Revis Island. Charles Woodson was a deserving Defensive Player of the Year winner in 2009, but even then it feels like Revis got robbed, because in 2009, Revis might have had the greatest season from any cornerback ever. Perhaps the way the Jets slid into the playoffs was why they were so underestimated heading into January. But for a second straight week, they walked over the Bengals, aided by 2 missed Cincinnati field goals on chip shots. In addition to Revis putting Chad Ochocinco-Johnson through a paper shredder, 2 Jets rookies delivered them to the upset win. Mark Sanchez was super efficient on 15 passes to become the 4th rookie quarterback to win his first playoff game, and rookie back Sean Green exploded in his playoff debut to the tune of 135 yards and a touchdown. In the divisional round against the Chargers, the Jets trailed in a 7-3 barn burner in the 3rd quarter. The turning point came when Revis tipped a reception out of Vincent Jackson's hands, falling to the ground and somehow securing one of the craziest interceptions we'll ever see. They couldn't capitalize on that drive, but did after another interception off Phillip Rivers, where Mark Sanchez's go-ahead touchdown early in the 4th quarter reached Dustin Keller in the middle of his own outstanding 2009 postseason. Like the previous game, missed field goals went in Gang Green's favor. Nate Kading, whose 2004 wildcard shank saved a collapsing Jets team, missed 3 in this game, allowing the Jets to ice the game late with a 53-yard Sean Green touchdown run, and when the Chargers cut into the lead late, an aggressive 4th-and-1 handoff to Thomas Jones, whose 2 yards officially sealed the New York Jets' first AFC title appearance since 1998. The one hurdle to their Super Bowl dream is the top-seeded Colts. The Jets too stunned the Indianapolis crowd by going up 17-6 in the 2nd quarter. As long as they don't allow the Colts to score 24 unanswered points while also getting shut out for the rest of the game to end their Cinderella season, the Jets should win this one. Can you guess what happened? In the 2010 offseason, the Jets looked at their already elite defense and said with a laugh, "What if we made it better?" A trade for star corner Antonio Cromartie was the biggest haul. Safety Bronny Poole was brought in, and Hall of Fame pass rusher Jason Taylor provided veteran leadership. By the way, he went to Akron. Go Zips. On offense, the departure of Thomas Jones was filled by Hall of Fame back LaDainian Tomlinson, complementing Sean Green in the backfield. Another trade brought in Super Bowl MVP receiver Santonio Holmes, coming off an electric 2009, and guess what college he went to? Go Buckeyes. The script was about identical to their 2009 season. The league's top defense and yards per drive allowed, complemented by an offense that wasn't league-shattering, but did its job well enough. On the surface, Darrelle Revis' 0 interceptions could be blamed on a holdout for an extension that lasted just before the season opener. But actually, this wasn't a bad thing. He was a first-team All-Pro for the second straight season, and offenses just actively avoided throwing to him, meaning his existence alone was the basis for another amazing Jets defense. Mark Sanchez again was a below-average quarterback, but he was better at not being below average, if that makes sense. He legitimately had an absurd stretch from weeks 2 to 4 and led clutch game-winning drives in weeks 9, 10, and 11. 2 overtime wins at Cleveland and Detroit, and the drive of his life against Houston that ended with a game-winning touchdown. The biggest win for this Jets team, aside from at home against the Patriots, was against a juggernaut Steelers team in Week 15 on a last-second pass breakup in the end zone. Things fizzled after a 9-2 start, but for Jets fans, they'll gladly take 11-5, the team's best record since 1998. As a wild card, they had unfinished business to take care of at Indianapolis. But Rex Ryan must have suffered temporary memory loss for no reason, because before the game, he guaranteed the Jets would win the Super Bowl. It's the wild card, Rex. Line up. But that's the attitude Rex is known for, and it's the attitude this Jets team needs when they avenge their heartbreaking AFC title loss from a year ago and walk off the Colts on a Nick Folk kick 17-16. They got a boost when Colts coach Jim Caldwell spread the legs in his mind and laid out a massive brain fart by using Indy's final timeout to prevent the Jets from using their last, allowing them to make the game-winning field goal attempt much easier. The Jets missed out on Peyton Manning back in 1997, and by doing so, they missed out on a 14-time Pro Bowler, 5-time MVP, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year winner, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and 1-time Super Bowl MVP. No playoff win against this team can completely make up for all of that, but it has to feel pretty sweet for Jets fans that Peyton Manning's last game as a Colt ended up being a loss to the Jets. Their next opponent is a bit spookier, led by the league's first unanimous MVP. The Jets split the season series with the 14-2 Patriots, who did what the Jets couldn't and lost to the Browns. Losers. But the last time these two teams squared off, the Pats sent New York to Kingdom Come 45-3. As such, the favorites to win the Super Bowl were massive favorites in the divisional round. Before the game, as it was clear Rex Ryan's obsession with not kissing the Patriots' rings was becoming a fetish, he put his foot down even further, ripping Tom Brady for going to a play the day of the Jets-Colts game. Peyton would have watched the game in that situation, Rex said. Also, Rex, Brady doesn't study as much as he thinks he does. That's some pretty bold slander, liable if you read it in print. But nevertheless, the fuel has its fire, as a night in Foxborough, Massachusetts will live forever in Jets lore. The Jets were shut out for the entire first quarter before going up 14-3 by the end of the first half. The Pats cut the lead to 3 entering the fourth quarter, but an excellent Santonio Holmes touchdown brought the lead back to 2 scores on a pass from Sanchez, who will have by far his best playoff performance. The lead was cut to 7 by a field goal. Hey, look, familiar player. And on 2nd and 6, a minute 46 left to play. 21-14 Jets. Sean Green raced down the sideline for 16 yards to punch in what would be the game-sealing touchdown. A Patriots touchdown and failed onside kick later, the Jets once again exercised their demons, taking down the very dynasty they may have unleashed and earning their second consecutive AFC title appearance. This wasn't the same pushover Jets the league was used to seeing. They avoided the horrible personnel decisions that plagued the franchise for the longest time, becoming a first-class AFC team with a future as exciting as any. I think deep down, some of the hardcore fans knew better. In the AFC Championship at Pittsburgh, the Jets trailed 24-0 early, and although they shut out the Steelers in the second half and scored 19 unanswered points, the comeback attempt was just too late. Outside of a 10-6 2015, the Jets have never had it this good again. Since their most recent playoff run in 2010, they have yet to make it back to the postseason. They've spent the next decade and a half making an absolute mockery of themselves, One winning season, a whole lot of chaos, a whole lot of coaching changes, bad draft classes, bad luck with quarterback injuries, bad luck with missing out on quarterbacks they drafted, eventually becoming Pro Bowl starters, and gradually undoing the goodwill they achieved from 1997 to 2010. The best stretch the New York Jets have ever had. In those 14 seasons, a lot of what-ifs have plagued this team. What if Bill Belichick stayed put after 1999? What if Peyton Manning declared for the 1997 NFL Draft? Is it possible the Peyton Manning-Bill Belichick Jets could have been a dynasty? As they hold the longest playoff drought of any active Big Four North American sports franchise, missing out on that duo, their fault or not, has left a haunting impact on the franchise, especially when their biggest division rival benefited the most from Belichick's arrival. But in that same stretch, New York went a combined 120-104, 16 games above 500 on a roller coaster journey of frustration, but also a series of brilliance to return some respect to the Jets moniker. They had many chances to get even better and, failed, but I think there's a lot of fond memories to be proud of. Since 2010, we've seen notorious poverty franchises like the Lions, Raiders, Jaguars, Bills, and even the Browns at least have some hint of regular season success, some with owners worse than most. The New York Jets may currently be led by a circus of clowns, but they have been good once before, and they can be good again. It might come soon, it might take an eternity, but one day it will be their time again. And as they have with the 1997 to 2010 teams, Jets fans will never let the rest of us forget it. Hey, it's me again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Your support is exactly why I'm able to do this. It could not be done without you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. That's the end of my script. I have nothing else to say. So hey, I'll see you next time. Take it easy.